Now, what we'd like to talk about now is called love supplies from yourself. Love supplies from yourself. And I've asked Peggy to make copies of a chart that you'll also find in your book. So please don't use the charts and not the book, because there's a lot more in the book to tell about it that we don't have. But in this chart, well, let's say this first. You can take the love supplies chart. That means love supplies from others. That chart is love supplies from others. And you can imagine that you're giving yourself empathy, you're giving yourself praise, you're giving yourself hugs, you're giving yourself trust, you're giving yourself explanations by finishing sentences and finding out things. You're giving yourself firmness. In fact, I think last time I said, I don't remember if I said this or not, but all assertiveness begins from your positive self to your negative self. Anyone remember me saying that last time? That if you're out of control with something in your personal life, you're not going to be able to be very assertive with other people's negatives if you aren't even assertive from your own positive to your own negative. What would be examples of that? I mean, there's people that want to lose weight. There's people who want to stop smoking. There's people who want to stop cussing. There's people who want to stop criticizing. There's people who want to stop showing off. People who want to stop pornography. There's people that... And if you cannot control your own negative, so your positive says, no, you shut up. That's not true. I'm not no good, and I don't need that for a cheap love substitute. Get thee hence, you child of hell, right? If you can't do that with your own negative, you're not going to be very successful at assertiveness with your children. Like when Stephanie said, well, what if it doesn't work? I say, well, this has something to do with your inability to be firm and strict from your positive to your negative. So how many of you can think of something in your personality that you're not quite satisfied with, that you need to kick it out? And then you want to figure out, So to the extent that you are successful in commanding and disciplining and being firm and assertive with your own negative self, that's how much you'll be successful at being assertive with your children or your friend, right? So let's say that 70% of the time you kick negative buttocks, right? And you get that negative out of your life. You'll be that percentage effective in your assertiveness with others. Isn't there a poem about that? How can a man rule a city when he can't even rule himself? It's a poem about that, see? Yeah. So think about that. When people don't mind you, or they don't believe you, or they take you for a sucker or pleaser, or that. How assertive am I from my own positive to my own negative? And that goes for every other love supply on the chart, the 6 love supplies. If I don't listen to my own inner signals, if I'm not aware of my own feelings, if I can't do empathy with my own self, how can I do empathy with her or him? Isn't that amazing? So go to each love supply on the chart and see if you can try to give those to yourself from your positive to your negative in some cases, but always from your awareness. So how many of you feel like you do know your inner signals? You can feel your feelings. And if you're aware of your own feelings, see, then you're going to be able to do more empathy with others. Because remember, capture, compare, communicate back. You can't do that if you can't even capture your own feelings. Now then, I think last time we passed out a little handout called Sorting Your Feelings. It's not in the book, but it said that you can be empathic with all sorts of feelings of your own and others. But after you feel them, then you've got to choose which ones to obey. So if you feel anger, should you just give her a smack? No. You feel anger, You honor the feeling with empathy, but you only obey positives. So you have to keep working with yourself till you get to the positive. Then you make your body, which is your servant, obey the positive. We used to tell our children that puking out your garbage, pouring out your garbage is very, very good if you need to, but you cannot puke in public.
That's good.
My daughter sees these people making out in a movie film, and she says, "Get a room, get a room." And when she was little, I would say, "Julie, if you want to puke garbage, go to the room and puke in private. We don't puke in public. We don't do it in church. We don't do it when company's here. We don't do it with the family members. Go in your room and puke your garbage. It's private." See? So you've got to have some rules. I feel negative, but I'm not going to act on it. I'm going to work with myself, and I'm going to show you how to do that right now until you can get into the positive. Then your body obeys positive, real self feelings. So you can honor the feelings of little children who are mean or mad, hostile, rude, rebellious, or a pleaser, but you don't obey them. So important, so important. Okay, so think about those 6 love supplies that you can get for yourself. Now I want to tell you some other love supplies from yourself that are far more important. And where did Peggy go? I'm waiting for her to bring...
Oh, she went to make copies.
Yeah. Okay. She's going to bring back a little piece of paper, and I want you to save it and bring it to class when you come in September. Can anyone keep track of your stuff for 3 months? Okay. On this chart, it has real self to real self, type 1, type 2, real self to false self, or negative self, or false self, whichever you want to call it, and type 3, negative self to negative self. Now, you'll have this in your laps pretty soon. So, this is the most wonderful way in the world to be. How many of you know somebody else that's in their real self the same percentage of the time that you are? Stephanie, raise your hand. You know Jennifer, right? So if she's 70% inner positive and you're set, isn't that great when you can be together with another 70-30? See, everyone in this room, we can go around and say, well, there's 80-20, 70-30, 60-40, 50-50, 20-10, 20-30, right? But we shouldn't be doing that because we're not supposed to judge. Peggy, do you want to pass those out? Yes. Could you help? Someone help her?
Sure.
Yeah. And so how many of you know what your number is? How many people, think about it. What percentage of the time am I in my positive, and what percentage of the time am I in my negative? If you're really sick, you'll be 10-90. Think about that. Lots of people are 50-50. So I just want you to think about how often am I in my positive, how often am I in my negative? And you may say, it depends on the day. Or the person. That's perfect, because pretty soon we're going to talk about mutually threatening wounds. So if you have a criticism wound, and you're with a person that loves to bawl you out to make them feel superior, you're not going to be in your positive with them. So we'll show you about that. So here's a wonderful way to be. It's called love, where 2 real selves are very happy long before they meet you. They get their love from God or from their real self or from a great job that matches their identity. See, later on we'll be talking about this, and we'll say everybody can be actualized through work and love. And so everybody needs a soulmate and a job mate. A job that matches your true identity, and a man or a woman that matches your true identity. That's why we say, President Kimball used to say, marry your own kind. Psychologists say similarity is the highest factor of keeping people together over a long period of time. So this is a wonderful place to be. It's love of friends, love of children, love of spouses, where you're in your positive and they're in their positive. You make yourself happy. You're happy with God and with yourself, and you share that happiness with someone else. That's called love. 2 full love buckets sharing from their fullness. Down here in type 3, you have 2 empty love buckets, desperately needing the other one to fill them up. Trouble is, they're on empty. They can't fill you up, they're on empty. So this is type 1. This is type 2. This one's called love. This one's called helping. Type 2, real self to negative self, is called helping. Now, how many of you have been in a type 1 relationship with another human being? Suddenly, or gradually, they get in their negative self. What should you do? You should give them their favorite love supply, hoping to get them back up to type 1. That's called helping. It's called friendship. It's called counseling. It's called shrinking. It's called therapy, where you give the favorite love supply to the damaged person, try and help them back up into their real self. Has anyone in here done that with one of their friends, children, or spouse? Of course, it happens all the time. Now, suppose you're doing this, giving them their favorite love supply, and they get worse and worse and worse. And finally your eyes narrow to little slits, and you say, I'm fed up with you, blah, blah, blah. Now you're both screaming idiots. You're down here, you're in your negative, he's still in his negative, and you're off to hell in a handbasket, right? Negative self to negative self. Now, this would be fights. This would be silent treatment. Leaving, escaping, I don't want to talk to you. It can be all sorts of weird things going on. One crying and the other feeling great. How many of you have ever noticed with a spouse that when you finally can get the other one to cry, then... Anyone? Am I the only one? Then it seems better. Now, if you start helping a negative self up here and it doesn't work and for some reason they're getting you negative, the best thing to do is leave. See that little arrow now that says leave before they get you down here. I didn't mean divorce. I mean leave for 10 minutes. I hope you didn't make a covenant that you wouldn't leave for 10 minutes. I have a couple of ones that every time she gets, so she has to leave, she says, I'm in my negative, I need some space. Did you see that? That's better than going down here and yelling and screaming, see? Now, suppose you aren't deep enough or smart enough or sensitive enough to know that you should leave, that you're heading for trouble, cruising for a bruising. Then, and you're down here and you're already yelling or crying or doing some weird positive or prominent negative style, then you should leave. So see down there where it says leave, and then it goes down to a list of 4 things? Yeah. Those are the 4 things we want to talk about now. Thought detection and thought selection, finishing sentences, doing the 3 questions, and inner child work. So, quickly, type 3 says A under it and B. A is a symbiotic relationship, which means like a male chauvinist person and a dumb doormat. That's the most common symbiosis in the world, where a domineering man marries a submissive woman or is in a friendship, or a domineering woman, female chauvinist person, with a dumb David doormat, right? That's a symbiosis. And it says flowers need bees and bees need flowers. Do you all know what the bees have that the flowers cannot live without? Pollen on their feet, which is fertilize all the flowers. What do the flowers have that the bees need, or they won't live? Nectar. Remember? And so it is. What does a chauvinist person have that a dumb doormat? What does a submissive woman have that the domineering man needs? He needs to boss someone around so he can feel powerful. Why does he need feel powerful? Because underneath he's weak. As Freud would say, he's castrated. And he has to use power and sex and all sorts of weird things to compensate for his emasculated state. What does the man have that the submissive woman needs. She doubts herself. She doubts her adequacy. She wants someone to tell her what to do. And if you have a husband like that, you probably also had a father like that. And if you have a wife like this, you had a mother like this. We'll get into this when we talk about psychology of romantic love in September. We'll start talking about marrying for wrong reasons. And one of the most wrong reasons to marry is to get the parent you never had or to get the parent you did have. Okay, life school is hard. When God makes a school, He makes it hard. And we are in it. B was anti-symbiotic, when people start to hate the symbiosis and they want to get out. Anyone been through that one? Okay. Now, let's go through the 4 things. We'll use this chart more. So please bring the stuff that you get, your handouts, bring them with you when you come. I suggest making a little folder or notebook or something. Put in everything that pertains to this class.